You know, I thought I knew close quarters nerfing, or NERF CQB, because after all, most stock Nerf is close quarters combat, and I happen to be a big fan of shotguns, and you would think something like this would be the last word when it comes to close quarters combat, and yet I found out this thing is practically useless. Close quarters. Luke from Out of Darts actually showed me what close quarters nerfing looks like, and it looks something surprisingly like this. This video is sponsored by Raid. Raid Shadow Legends is celebrating their 3rd anniversary, and they're spreading the love back to the players. It's come a long way over the last 3 years, adding tons of champions like last year's new faction, the Shadowkin, to new bosses like the Hydra, where each one of its many heads is basically its own boss fight in itself. And who can forget the Doom Tower with its 120 levels of challenge? But my favorite thing about Raid will always be the sheer amount of customization you have at your disposal. Not only do you have to create a team of multiple characters to fight, each one with its own abilities and stats, but then you can customize those characters even further in a myriad of ways. Different artifacts can give them set bonuses which strengthen their current effects or add entirely new ones. But then you have the mastery board where you can add points down 3 separate trees to add even more abilities and take your character's build in a whole new direction. And that's for each hero on your team, out of over 600 of them. And of course, with Raid's 3-year anniversary, things are getting pretty crazy, starting with free gifts for everyone, and adding a bunch of new events and even more content. New champions, artifact sets, and even a fully personalized video showcasing every player's journey through Raid and their own personal achievements. Don't forget special events and tournaments with their best prizes ever, like insanely powerful champions, piles of summoning shards, and other goodies. Don't wait though, this all goes on for a limited time. This is the best time ever to get started with Raid. Scan my QR code on the screen right now or use the link below to get a free starter pack worth almost $40 for new players to hit the game in style. You'll get the free champions Misericord, Tiger Soul, and Romero, 10 Magic XP Brew, 10 Force XP Brew, and 10 Spirit XP Brew. If that wasn't good enough, all players who use the promo code 3 years Raid will get even more gifts worth over $25. Here's where you can claim that promo code in-game, and here's where you can collect your starter pack and everything else. Thanks again to Raid for sponsoring this video. Short, maneuverable, powerful, high capacity, with a decent amount of accuracy and quick mag changes in there, and you've got a thing that practically replaces every other blaster there is. And it's not fun to play against, I'll tell you that much. But you would be saying something along the lines of,
Walcom, that was a pew-pew. That is a blaster that starts at over $400. It definitely should be one of the best.
But you would notice that I didn't really use anything on that pew-pew that made it the pew-pew. I had it in semi-auto mode, and I've played against 3 different pew-pews from 3 different people, and every single time they were in semi-auto mode. But what does that have to do with today's video? Well, Worker has released yet another new product in their new line of blasters that are absolutely awesome. The Swift, the Phoenix 2.0, and now we have their latest iteration and a first for Worker in this category, the Nightingale, a pistol micro flywheel mag-in grip fed blaster, which is absolutely freaking amazing. Well done once again, Worker. Inside was, no, it's belt. A small LiPo battery. Okay, that's new. Dirts. The size of the Nightingale, and that's, what is that? Is that like a holster lock belt clip for, oh my goodness. Now since then, not much has changed. The belt does not fit. Of course, the belt doesn't fit. The holster is usable, especially with my flabby body. It actually kind of hugs my body pretty good, so as long as I don't like bend over and fling the blaster out of the holster, it works pretty okay. I have added one of these like strife battery door screws to the front of it, so I don't have to use the Allen key and undo the screw to get my battery out of it, but I think that looks pretty cool. And that's one of the things that I'm gonna praise the Nightingale right up front. A lot of the times when you get these smaller pistol-like blasters, especially the ones with magazines, they tend to have a silhouette that could be easily mistaken for an actual firearm. It seems the smaller these things get, the less details that are noticeable, the more they start to resemble actual firearms, which could be a problem, especially if you're in the US and playing in public. This barely looks like a thing. The barrel is actually up here, and it looks like some kind of like, it's in that perfect combination of like Destiny yet Star Trek-y aesthetic that's like, yeah, this is a handgun kind of thing, but feels pretty good, works pretty good, and it looks weird yet functional. The first thing we have to talk about before we actually get to the fun stuff is the magazine, because This is a new magazine. Now, I know a lot of people out there don't really like the idea of the angled mags because that's a different mag they have to buy, and every single time you hear somebody talk bad about angled mags, they say they don't want to get into another magazine system for one blaster, even though that list of one blaster keeps getting longer and longer as time goes on. But the Nightingale features a different magazine. It's actually considerably thinner than your standard worker Talon mag, which means it will fit more places in your gear. I mean, not that these were gigantic or anything like that, but these are a lot better in pretty much every single way. But for those of you that like the idea of an in-grip mag, well, the Phoenix 2.0 is usable, but it's, as you can tell, it's pretty big. It has to be big enough to get that magazine in there. This is a heck of a lot more comfortable. I could reach my entire hand around this thing, no problem whatsoever. So practically everybody wins with this one. Now, this is currently a semi-auto only pistol. I don't know if Worker has many upgrades planned for this blaster or not. Knowing Worker, they probably do, but it's a pretty straightforward affair. You've got a mag release on the side for your magazine. You've got a trigger, and you've got an on-off switch back here, which is awesome. Thank you so much for that, Worker. I think everything that stores a battery in it should have an on-off switch, and I'm very happy about that. Flick it on, and the first thing you're gonna notice is how fast these wheels spin up and how loud they are. That is insane. As far as I know, these are a new motor design from Worker that spin much faster than their standard flywheel motors. But it's also using micro wheels. Those little tiny things are actually up here at the top of the blaster, and that's why this thing's so small. Because for something like this, granted, this has, 3 sets of them, but the flywheel cages are like this. So you can see, even when you're holding the blaster, the barrel's actually down here, which can be really annoying and pretty poor for accuracy in general. But I can tell you, getting a target and everything like that, especially in close quarters, is really easy with the Nightingale. Performance-wise, again, this is the Pro version of the 2 versions that are available. This thing regularly hits about 125, a little over 120 average, which is really good for something like this, because that means the Pro version is already HVZ legal. And while I'm not typically someone who recommends having short darts for humans versus zombies, having a one-hand blaster with a 15-round magazine capacity, easy quick draw that you don't have to worry about that's a very, very nice thing to have, and it's gonna be hard to argue against that. Con-wise, the accuracy is not the best. That's typical for flywheelers, and I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's definitely okay, considering it's only a single-stage flywheel blaster, but it's just, you're pushing a foam dart between 2 diametrically spinning wheels that are rotating at like 30,000 rotations per minute, and yeah, a foam dart doesn't exactly go through that and stay completely on target, although I was able to get quite a few shots directly on target. But you can pull that trigger pretty quickly, and you can do a mag change extremely easily, so it's not that big of a problem, unless you're trying to use this thing as a dedicated one-shot, one-tag primary blaster of some description. You can do it, and as they showed in the opening, using that thing in close quarters is absolutely going to dumpster people, and you can do that on a budget. Now, the highest magazine capacity you can get currently with this is 15 rounds, unless Worker makes other angled Talon mags like this one. But if you have enough of them, mag reloads are quick enough. You can very easily just run around and just dumpster on everybody in a close quarters setting. Other than that, I don't really have any other complaints. It's very similar to the Phoenix 2.0. It did not come with any kind of tactical rail, which I think is a bit of a problem, but that's a tactical rail you can very easily pick up separate from the blaster. And honestly, if you put a rail on there, you're gonna be losing your normal iron sights anyway. The holster they give does technically work, although it's not great at all. There's no indentation to hold the blaster snugly into place. It just kind of gravity does its work, and that's not awesome, but I mean, it's otherwise pretty well designed. I just wish I had some kind of indentation that clicked and held the blaster in place with a little bit more friction, I guess. And the new mag and grip design means it's going to be a lot more comfortable for a lot more people when it comes to actually using the thing, unlike some of the other options out there that use standard angled Talon mags or standard Talon mags. So if you don't already have your hands on one of these kind of micro flywheel pistols, this is an awesome first step from Worker. I don't know how they would make this better without adding more stages and thus increasing the length of the blaster, but this is a really, really awesome start, and I am very happy with what they have here. I'm hoping they get more colors in the future because it's still your typical Phoenix 2.0 colors with like a gray, an orange, and this weird teal blue that I have here, but I do like this blue color, so not really that big of a problem. I just want pink. And of course, new mags means gonna have to dump some money on getting some more mags, and I'm sure they're gonna be virtually the same price as any other magazine from Worker, but because it's a sidearm, don't really need to have all that many until they put out a bigger blaster that virtually requires them. That will push you over the edge, but I would like 2 or 3 more of these things. Absolutely awesome first step from Worker. I'm kind of a Worker fanboy at this point because their new blasters have all been grand slams. Hopefully we get no more Terminators or anything like that out of Worker. I'm hoping this is the future, and I can't wait to see what they do next, because really they keep me guessing on what they're actually going to put out, and this thing just kind of dropped out of nowhere, and I want to thank Worker once again for sending one of these off to me. But that's all I've got for you. I'm Walcom S7. Thank you very much for watching this video. Chances are if you got to the end, you like what I do here, so please hit like, get subscribed, ring the bell, leave a comment, do all that algorithmic garbage to help the channel grow so you can help the hobby grow. I'll have links down in the description to a battery that you can get for this thing if you don't have one already, and of course where you can pre-purchase one from Worker themselves or out of darts. And of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different video.
You gotta